Do you know, it seems to me one of the most difficult things I've got to do on this journey of exploration is to get inside the minds of people long dead. Archaeologists can dig up medieval bones, and they have often, and they can tell us all sorts of interesting things. That medieval people were, on average, 6 centimeters shorter than we are today. That life expectancy was low, that death in childbirth was high. Oh, and that we had surprisingly good teeth, all things considered, because we didn't have sugar in our diet back then.
But however many bones you dig up, there's one thing archaeologists can't tell us, and that's what was going on up here. They can't teach us what medieval people were thinking. Were they like us? Were they happy? Did they laugh? What were their hopes and their fears?
I've come to Kempley Church in Gloucestershire, one of tens of thousands of medieval churches scattered the length and breadth of England.
And far more than castles, far more than manor houses, these churches allow us a way into the medieval mind.
It's a gem, this place. It's rare to find a Norman church with its original wall paintings. Most were painted over with lime wash in the 16th century. But once, all churches boasted these elaborate decorations. Few in those distant days could read, so the walls of churches were like picture books, spelling out to the people stories from the Bible, stories of saints and martyrs, inspiring the congregation with a rare splash of colour in their drab lives.
But this is what I wanted to show you. Here in the chancel, it's pretty faded, but can you make out the angel here? What we've got here is nothing less than a glimpse of heaven. Christ in his majesty, surrounded by the heavenly host. And according to the Christian faith, believed almost exclusively by every man and woman in medieval England, this is a picture of the joy available to us all after death. And straight away, this alters my perception of medieval peasants, because all of a sudden, they're not just narrow souls stuck in some muddy field. They're men and women with a spiritual life, balancing the cares of this world, this brutal, nasty, short life, with the promise of another world beyond this narrow horizon. And that promise, it gave them comfort. It gave them hope.
There is, of course, a flip side to all this. Christianity preaches eternal bliss, but the church, the medieval church especially, was quick to add an if. You'll go to heaven if you're good, if you come to church, if you confess your sins, if you make the church offerings, a tithe as much as 1/10 of your income. If not, well, yes, you'll experience life after death, but it won't be in heaven. The walls of medieval churches spelt out the punishment in store for those that disobeyed the church's rules. And the people juggled two contrasting emotions: the hope of salvation on the one hand, the fear of damnation on the other. But I think in our modern, secular world, where religious faith is increasingly unfashionable, the danger is that we forget the more positive aspects of the early church. This place where people came every Sunday to celebrate together. This place where people marked the transitions in their lives, where couples were married, where they baptized their children, where they mourned those children that died in infancy, knowing that they too would be mourned here in their turn in time. This was the place where the saints' days were celebrated. And when I say celebrate, I mean celebrate. It's from the old medieval sense of a holy day we get our word holiday. But most of all, I think, for me, The church was important because it gave medieval people a route through which they might release the power of the imagination.
And that's why I wanted to end this brief investigation here at Kilpeck Church in Herefordshire, because it's the most extraordinary medieval church I know. It's decorated with carvings that seem to have less to do with Christianity than a sheer, exuberant love of life.
There are carvings here of beasts and of lovers and of pagan gods and of fertility symbols, and so many figures of pure fun. These carvings speak to me of minds much like yours and mine, as complex, as subtle and interesting. Minds trapped, if you like, in a medieval world, but capable of so much more.